to add the neckband. So what I like to do with these neckbands, I know with wovens everything is so precise, but with knits it's kind of like you got to figure it out as you go along, because there isn't a formula for how wide or how thick the neckband should be or how long it should be. But rule of thumb, neckband should at least be about 3/4 of an inch wide, not including seam allowance, and that you should trim them off at least 2 inches from what the actual circumference of the neckline of the top is, so that what this band will do will control the top. Now we cut this neckband on the grain, or where you see the wales. So next I'm going to pin it at the center front, or clip it rather at the center front. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch it, and the center front is kind of my control. So I'm going to stitch it, and I'm going to make sure that as I stitch it, I'm going to stretch out that neckband while I stitch, so that it'll basically serve as a casing. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and just clip it here just to get the stitch started, and then I'm going to get back to sewing on the machine.
This is where it may get a little tricky. Because the band controls the neckline, you will have to stretch the band as you stitch it to the neckline. Let's place it under the foot and get started. As you stitch, make sure that shoulder seams are positioned so that the seams fold to the back. You will need to stop and start several times, adjusting the neckline as you sew. When you get to the center front, release the clip and stitch the center front. Continue to stretch the band out until you reach the end of the seam at center back. Here is the finished neckline.
So I've turned it inside out again, And then I'm gonna just go ahead and start stitching. And I'm gonna overlap this seam right over here. I'm gonna pivot. I'm gonna let it run off. And now we're back to the table. So for hemming, I am going to be using a home machine because let's face it, who has like cover stitch machines and all these different type of stitches and mirror machines, unless you're really into machines like I am. So I want to make it really practical for you. So I am going to be working with a triple stretch for the hem. But first we have to mark the hem. So how I like to do it, I have to decide on what type of hem I want. I like to work with anything that's at least a 1/2 inch fold under to a 3/4 inch. So how I do it, like let's say you don't have a hemmer, like a professional hemmer attachment, you can use your ruler and you can use your chalk pen. And what I'll do is I will go up, if I'm going for a 1/2 inch seam, I'm gonna go up 1 inch and I'm just gonna mark it lightly here. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna go about 1/4 over. So, sorry about that. I'm gonna go 1 1/4 inches up. I'm gonna remember these lines here. And that's going to be for the hem. So pay attention to this top line right here, not this bottom line. And then I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to do the same thing for the back bodice. I'm going to mark it with my see-through at 1 1/4 inches. Oops. 1 1/4 inches. And all right, so now the only thing I need to do is use clips to fold up and clip just to that line, like this, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and start clipping, and once I'm finished with clipping, I'm gonna show you what it looks like before I stitch it on the machine. And now look at what we have here. We have the hem pinned up like this. So isn't that a much easier way to hem, especially if you don't have a hemmer or like a hemmer attachment? So now I'm ready to go ahead and stitch it up. Now I'm ready to stitch the hem. So with the hem, I'm actually going to start just a little past the side seam. And I'm using the triple stretch stitch at a 2.5 stitch length. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish stitching this up, and then once I'm done, I'll show you the end results. Or I'll stitch, and then I will start up again right when I finish the stitch so you can see how I close out. So now I'm about to finish the stitch right here. And what I'm going to do is try to overlap that stitch as best as I can, and then I'm going to hit rewind, reverse I mean. And this is how I finished my stitch. Now this is my finished hem. So with this, you can see the top stitch here, and you can see that it totally caught, and I just have to trim the threads. And you can use the same exact stitch for the hem of your sleeves, or if you have one of those fancy machines, you can do a nice rolled hem or a purl stitch. For this sample, I will be going a little fancy with my purl stitch, and I'll show you what the hem looks like. If you don't have it, go ahead and proceed with a regular triple stretch on the hem of your sleeves. Here is the finished top. Now, I did use this pearl edge stitch on the sleeve, but you can always use a regular straight triple stretch or a straight stitch. I can't say stitch today. Stitch. Or you can do a zigzag stitch as well. So whatever is comfortable with you, and utilize the machinery that you do have. So here I'm gonna hold up the butterfly top, and this is it. So don't forget to share your pics on sewknits.com's Flickr account, and inbox me if you have any questions or if you want to make any type of alterations. Again, just inbox me, I'm available. Thanks for joining me for my very first tutorial, for my very first pattern, and have a good day.